Hey everyone, this is Mikedot and welcome back to the channel. I'm here today with my bro Afromania.
What's up, guys?
Yeah, okay, so we got actually a bit of a news dump tonight because we got some news regarding this Marvel Rivals game that we were actually looking forward to. It's caught a bit of a snag regarding its closed alpha test and a non-disparage agreement that has a lot of people concerned. Also, we have some issues with Square-Enix deciding to ditch exclusivity, especially with Sony. And we also have some details regarding something else that Afro wanted to bring up. What was that?
About Warner Brothers deciding not to actually kind of reward games back to Adult Swim and not take their games off the market.
So there was an alpha test that launched like a while ago. It was fairly well received. It's basically like an Overwatch clone, but with Super Mario characters, and it's like third person. It actually looks kind of cool. I have some of my issues with it, but I'm kind of looking forward to it. That being said, with the alpha test, there was a non-disparage agreement that people had to sign and agree to in order to play the game. It basically meant that you couldn't say anything negative about the game while you're playing it on stream or when you're producing content for YouTube or any of that stuff. And it had a lot of people concerned. It upset a lot of people, especially some well-known players in the gaming space, including Ace Eagle, who was a very well-known Overwatch League player. He basically put it out on Twitter that this non-disparage agreement was very concerning, and it's a thing that also gives a lot of people confirmation and suspicion towards the whole fact that when it comes to access media, when it comes to game reviews and whatnot, that you have to sign these kinds of agreements, and basically this is kind of having people sign this is like saying the quiet part out loud that if we give you this game and we basically ask you to promote it, you basically can't say anything bad and negative on it, which obviously is not something that a lot of people agree to. And basically they decided to walk it back already. It was a quote unquote miscommunication on our part, and so no, you're allowed to say whatever you want about the game, and that's kind of it. That's where we're at right now. But yeah, it's just kind of weird that they would put that in there, even though it's basically something that you can't really enforce legally anyway. But yeah, it's just really concerning that you would just tell people basically not to give their honest feedback on the game because you're worried that it's going to be negative or something like that, especially considering the game it's in alpha form. That's the time of development where you kind of want to collect the most amount of feedback, positive or negative, for the game, and it's just why would you do that kind of thing, It's just what do you think, man?
You basically said everything I needed to say, so I don't really have anything to really add on to that. No, I honestly don't have anything to add on to that. I mean, again, you're not going to be able to stop anybody on to say their opinion. A lot of these people are on Twitch and are streaming the game right now, and if they were to say that the game is bad, dog shit, and they don't like certain situations, they're going to be able to stop them. I mean, Netease isn't going to go after everybody and shut their streams down. I mean, and if they do, then you're going to create a mortar out of a lot of these people, and that's going to even create more negative press. So honestly, the fact that it was put in there, again, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
Maybe, I don't know. Now, I don't know if this is language in all of their other games that is presented to, say, people that want to get into an alpha test, or to people that want to review the game behind closed doors. I don't know if it's their standard everyday practice for that type of stuff. You would know better in terms of that. Is that standard practice from that Netease?
Well, a lot of people pointed out that it's not just standard practice for a company like Netease. People are saying that it's a standard practice for a lot of games within people like reviewers who are part of like quote unquote access media.
Okay.
So and obviously it's just like, yeah, again, like I said, like when you receive a game from like a developer or publisher for the sole like point of like, you know, critique, and then they put that non-disparage agreement in there saying you can't badmouth the game. Yeah, it is standard practice that a lot of people are saying, and it's still not right, because again, you want people to give their honest opinion, and especially for a game like this where it's like really crucial. Is like, no, you got to take the bad with the good and just let people say what they want. It's just kind of weird that they left that in there like at all. Like,
again, maybe this was a mistake on them. Again, I don't know much of NetEase's history in terms of this kind of language being happening into games. I guess I'm going to take your word on that, though. I think maybe this was maybe a mistake on their end, and maybe this was language that slightly slipped. Again, until proven otherwise, until you guys can show me other, in the comments below, or even you, Mikedot, that this is standard practice in all their games. And I'm not just saying the industry. I'm just talking NetEase in general. Again, like even if they had to put it in the contract, again, what real power would they be able to stop multiple streamers expressing their opinion? I mean, you already have that now. People are expressing their opinions on some of the negatives of Marvel Rivals, and I think again it's duly so. I think you should be able to, like I said, it is an alpha test. I will give them credit for an alpha test. Actually, it's been pretty polished coming out the gate. Not without some of its issues though, but from what I've been seeing though, it has looked actually quite pretty polished in terms of presentation from my end, and in terms of certain things and items and things that you can do in the game, certain features. That being said, I don't know what NetEase could have done if a streamer were to go and present a lot of negative issues or even basic critique on the game. There wasn't much they could do anyway, even with that language was put in. So it would have been a lose-lose situation to them no matter what. And I don't think they need that kind of negative press for a brand new game coming out of the bat.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think NetEase puts this kind of language on all of their like test versions of this game. I really doubt it. I just think they probably put it in because of Disney, and you know, them having like, you know, the Marvel brand and whatnot, and they're kind of a little bit crucial when it comes to the Marvel brand right now, because I mean, it's not, the Marvel brand doesn't hold as much water as it used to, and a lot of their like, you know, Marvel properties have kind of been like failing in these past few years, even with the most recent like project, X-Men 97, what's it called? Yeah, even though I heard mostly good things about the show.
It's actually fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, Afro watched the show. So, I haven't watched it.
I think Rotten Tomatoes has it high 98. Yeah. Even the audience score has it 97. So
yeah,
no, the show's been fantastic in terms of its writing and its character development and stuff like that too. Yeah. But apparently you're saying that it's not one of the best. Yeah. It's struggling with viewership.
Yeah, I was talking to you earlier about it. Like, yeah, it's not doing well in viewership. I believe it was reported like 4 million views on the first episode, and ever since then, that first episode, viewership basically dropped episode by episode.
I guess I'm gonna go by your saying. I haven't looked into those numbers. I think there's some other sites that said otherwise on that, but moving away from that in terms of the Marvel product to such things, no. Other than that, in terms of Marvel Rivals. I know I'm shifting a little bit. Yeah. What have your thoughts have been in terms of the game, just in general? I think we can both agree that the non-content was stupid.
No. Yeah, the non-disparage agreement was
stupid.
Yeah.
But now switching points, game-wise, what's your first take on Marvel Rivals?
First impressions on the game is that I personally think that the presentation needs work. Like, obviously, this game is undoubtedly going to be compared to Overwatch and Overwatch 1 and 2. And I feel like the presentation of the game is actually still lacking when compared to Overwatch. And just like visually, because of the like, you know, the character designs are like radical, like they're just like very exaggerated versions of these superheroes. And like the environments feels like it could use a little bit more luster to it. The combat also looks like it could use work, because there's a distinct lack of impact when attacking or getting attacked by like opponents, which I feel is kind of weird. And I think it's just kind of annoying that like you got like the superheroes like having like voice lines and quips every like 5 seconds, and that really starts to stack when you got heroes saying all sorts of stuff while you're playing, which it could also affect your comms when you're playing with your friends. So I feel like that needs to be toned down a little bit. But other than that, I mean, it does look like it could be a fun game. I am surprised that a lot of the heroes do retain most of their, like, you know, their flair and their abilities. Some more than others. Like, a lot of people have been saying that like Star-Lord is just this weird amalgamation between like Tracer and Soldier 76 from Overwatch, which I can kind of see that, but I mean, he still works for him and what he's been capable of in his, like, you know, Marvel movies. I think it's obviously more lean towards the Marvel movie style of like Star-Lord rather than the comic book style. You also got like Bruce Banner, who can, like, you know, transform into the Hulk, and he functions very similar to Diva from Overwatch. So obviously they're taking a lot of influence from archetypes and characters from Overwatch and blending them in with these Marvel superheroes and villains, which can obviously work very well. But I do feel like if this game is going to really set itself apart, it really needs to offer something that's a little bit extra, and that extra seems to be the team up system, where you can like link up with another player and perform like different actions and moves together, which seems like it could be a pretty cool way to create more like dynamic combat. And there's also the destructible environments, which also looks pretty cool, but I think it's not like super flexible destruction, where like if you destroy it in a certain way, you can like block off paths and whatnot. I think like environments always like get demolished in a very specific way, and they regenerate back into a neutral position. So I feel like maybe that kind of system could be unique as a way to, like, you know, defend and like attack, but that remains to be seen. I mean, and that's basically my thoughts of just spreading that all out there.
I have a little bit of different thoughts, honestly. I've been watching a lot of streams of the game, and I thought right off the bat, I thought the presentation actually looks pretty good. Now, in terms of graphic designs, the design, that's very subjective. Not maybe the design doesn't fit for everything. I thought the design is very unique, really kind of keeping with this amazing shell shaded aesthetic throughout the entire game. And I thought really off the bat in terms of presentation, it looks very well. I think Overwatch 2, again, it is being compared to us. Mind you, Overwatch 2, back in Overwatch in general, was kind of like the MCU. Like like if you think about it, Overwatch kind of took a little bit of their idea from like Marvel is. So the fact that Marvel's making their own Overwatch game honestly just makes sense. It makes sense because like Overwatch borrows those elements from the MCU a little bit.
That's, in fact, now that you mention it, it's actually kind of funny considering NetEase does have a history with Blizzard in China.
Oh yeah, they have a love and hate relationship, and now they're kind of like now because of Microsoft now has bought it out Blizzard, so they're like they're on terms. But yeah, but going back to what I was saying in terms of the game play of that. From what I'm seeing right now, it's like the third person angle looks really good. Movement is a little slow, Again, I still have some issues with the movement. I did mention that earlier in the game. I felt like kind of the movement does feel a little slow and janky at moments. One of the characters in that sticks out the most would be Spider-Man. I think depending on the level, he looks really good on the Tokyo map. But if he's kind of like in smaller contain, he looks like the movement feels weird and janky.
Yeah, his web slinging looks very like
all over the place.
Yeah,
which is kind of a little bit weird. I'm not worried about the power levels and who's OP right now. It's alpha that's going to get readjusted back when the game comes back next year. The Hulk doesn't remind me of Diva. He actually reminds me of Ramatra. If you don't know, if anybody Overwatch people know who that character is, it's kind of that design. I think they kind of take a Ramatra form. But for people,
who
Ramatra, he's kind of like the evil version in Zenyatta in Overwatch 2 right now. His power is kind of like how you see Hulk, how Bruce Banner turns into Hulk. It's kind of like that. Like there'll be a moment like there's a weaker form of Ramatra, and then Ramatra turns into this hulkish dude with 6 arms, as one of his superpowers in the game. But that's kind of the comparison. That's actually more better comparison between those parallels.
But doesn't like I never heard of this character because I never played.
But
Overwatch
that's more akin to that than actual Diva. Because the ability to switch out of characters, but that's here and there though. But like you said, I think it offers different ideas in terms of busable elements and how that can be incorporated in game right now. And I also like what have they done in terms of menus, like when you pick the characters, and if you want to actually be able to learn your characters, they give you like a menu on how these characters play and how they work. The fact that, again, when you have the Marvel IP, you have access to so much lore and characters, and able to kind of put all the comic book information into everybody's characters and bios and stuff. So I think right off the bat, again, with a couple of their kinks and some issues, presentation wise, I think they've looked really good right off the bat for the game. So I've been really impressed for that in terms of an alpha game. Just for having 2 levels and stuff like that. Personally, I think that's really good.
I mean,
in my opinion,
like I said, I'm like I still think the presentation needs work because it does have that like that cheap feel, like of a mobile game feel, which
originally was supposed to be a mobile game.
Yeah, I mentioned that. It was like when we had this talk a little bit earlier, but yeah, it originally was supposed to be a mobile game. It was Project X20. But they decided to upscale it to like a full like console game, so which is, I guess, just ambitious. But again, I just think that hopefully the presentation will be improved by the time the game launches into a beta form. So.
And I think so. I think they're gonna, again, once this ends in May 20th, I think it's the last day of alpha, and then they disappear for a little bit. I think the presentation will greatly improve.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
The only issue now, because of who the company is, Netease, is I'm just a little bit concerned about when the shoe is going to drop in terms of how payment's going to work, because again, the reveal is that this game will be free. So again, we don't know exactly how this game is honestly going to make money. My idea is probably going to be through skins and probably through character releases. And depending on how that's being handled with the quote-unquote battle pass, because unfortunately every crappy game needs a battle pass, unfortunately, that is where my concern is about the game more moving forward than the actual presentation and the gameplay and stuff like that, in terms of the actual business model moving forward. Because I know that NetEase doesn't have the greatest rep in terms of monetization of their games.
Yeah, very much so. Like I mean, the only other game from NetEase that I have played is Naraka Blade Point, and as much as I love that game, it's very much like microtransaction hell. That game is always trying to get you to buy something, and I feel like they're probably gonna do the same thing with this game because, like, Lord knows, like Disney needs the money. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's just you gotta just look out, just look out for the game whenever it goes into a beta. because I couldn't get a hold of an alpha key, and I kind of don't have any interest in getting a hold of one now. So I'm just gonna wait it out and see what happens.
Yep.
And in the next topic, we wanted to discuss Square-Enix and their decision to walk away from Sony when it comes to putting exclusive games on their platforms. As it's recently been announced that they've been taking like a 70% loss compared to previous year, despite the fact that their previous game, like Final Fantasy Remake, did pretty well sales wise, and Final Fantasy 16, which apparently did well. Like originally, it was reported that Final Fantasy 16 didn't meet expectations, but now there was some new article saying that it did. And but the big news here is that Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth actually didn't meet sales expectations, and that's mostly due to the fact that it's an exclusive to the PlayStation 5 and not everybody owns one. So since they've been losing money on this, they decided, you know what, no more exclusive for Sony. We are going to shift to an aggressive push towards multi-platforming, which is pretty good for everyone, because really, again, not everybody owns a PlayStation 5 or wants to have a PlayStation 5. And it's not like their games have been always been like solid, completely home on like the Sony platform, other than like the few Final Fantasy games for like during the PlayStation 2 era. They've always like jumped to other platforms and have always had like multi-platform on other systems. So them deciding to just keep Final Fantasy 7 on like PlayStation because Sony is probably paying them a lot of money for it. It obviously, they see the numbers, it's not paying off for them. Not to mention that because of the restructuring, they decided that they want to lay off a bunch of people in the US and in Europe, which is pretty harsh, but probably expected considering the amount of losses they had with their other titles, including Forspoken, a game that financially flopped so hard that it completely tanked an entire studio within Square-Enix. So it's kind of expected, I would say.
I mean, yeah, I think that's kind of tough, unfortunately, for, like you said, it's just unfortunately another story in terms of the ever shifting AAA market and how inflation has kind of really creeped into these prices. Like you said, you had a Resident Evil remake and then another the Final Fantasy game. Both of these games did pretty well, I guess, sales wise, and it seems like it wasn't enough to even keep certain studios afloat. And like you said, it's just kind of a reminder on that, because the wallets are starting to tighten up and the margins are starting to get smaller and smaller every year, that, you know, it's they have to try to make these they have to shift a new strategy, and that strategy is finally going all, you know, making it multi-platform, which is, you know, that's great for them. But, you know, for Sony, where Final Fantasy has been pretty much recognized on the PlayStation brand, that's a big hit. That's a big hit for the PlayStation. And in terms of like the whole console war situation, if you want to talk about that, like, Sony has had a good couple of years being on top over Xbox and Nintendo in that realm for a little bit. So
yeah, I was about to say, like,
before you go into say, let me just finish my point. Yeah, but again, just simply losing those exclusives that have been tied to Sony, that's a big loss for the company now, kind of moving forward. Now they're going multi-platform.
I mean, yeah, like you said. Also, I just want to point out, you said like Resident Evil remake. That's like Capcom.
No,
you did earlier.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
No, I said no. Did I?
Yeah, you did. You said Resident Evil remake.
Oh no, I thought I said.
And then you said Final
Fantasy remake, or maybe.
No, you said
maybe I got confused.
I was about to say like, yeah, no, not the big of a deal. Just like I was just like, wait, like what? Like, because I had to double guess, second guess myself, say like, wait, is that Square-Enix? Like, no. Just,
I mean, everybody's making remakes. They're all
true.
kind of the same at this point right now.
Fair enough. Yeah. In fact, like, do you feel that you're kind of getting tired of remakes?
Oh yeah, no, I think it's laziness. It's like George Lucas syndrome right now. It's
very much.
Yeah, that's kind of what's another contribute to where we are in terms of AAA right now, to the point that they have to go to remakes and they can't trust on anything new at the moment.
Yeah, and it kind of sucks because, like, going off on a tangent here, it's when you got games like Hi-Fi Rush, which is completely unique and completely new, and then in a game that actually got some awards at the Game Awards, like
still got canceled,
and the people, which is even more ironic considering like I think just a day before the game got shut down, there was like a Microsoft exec that was basically saying that we need smaller games like this. And then they shut down
the studio, which
Tango Game
contradicts everything that they said.
Completely. It's just like you just have to start asking, like, what is going through the heads of these execs when it comes to these games?
No,
man?
it's simple as that. They're not making profit. They're not profitable in what they thought in terms of the margins. Again, the margins are getting tighter now in the AAA industry right now. So yeah, even with a game like Hi-Fi Rush from Tango Gameworks, like you said, clearly a game that has gotten so much praise from review sites and has gotten multiple awards, BAFTAs and game nominations and all that stuff, has been well recognized even through the community. They figure that it didn't bring in enough money to them. It didn't bring in enough money to justify keeping a studio running. So that's where we are at the moment. Everything's going to get smaller. You're only going to start seeing you're basically going to start seeing I'm going to make a smaller version, your EA versions of Madden like games and Call of Duty like games. You're going to start and Fortnites of the world. Those are the only games that are going to continuously be spit out until either this AAA landscape collapses and the industry has to start reshuffling itself again in some form of way right now.
Yeah.
Because right now that's what you're seeing right now. You're going to start seeing less and less and less varieties right now. Yeah. Like even like you said, Forspoken, that game, a brand new IP, a new IP that just got shut down, unfortunately, right now. It's too much of a risk right now for to get these games out on the market, unfortunately. And again, that also comes to us as gamers not supporting new IPs. Like we say, when we want new IPs from these AAA companies too, and then when a game like that comes out, we don't support it. Or maybe just again, maybe the game sucked, maybe it was trash. That's also too. Like you have to get, so it's not easy. It's not easy when you're on a rock and a hard place. You have to start making decisions, and these are decisions that you got to start making to survive.
Very much so. I mean, this is basically witnessing the whole downsizing of the market in real time, and it's basically been a long time coming at this point. And personally speaking, I feel fine about it. I'm haven't really been too fixated on AAA gaming for the past like several months. Just been like chilling on these new indie games here and there. I mean, just looking at my Steam library, the majority of the games that I'm looking for are all indie games. In fact, I think we just like need to take like a time to just like go through our Steam lists and just like, talk about what indie games we're looking forward to. But yeah, the AAA space is basically, it's cooked, as the kids would say these days, but it's
Never
like,
say that again.
I had to get one in there, man. But it's something that it needed to happen, and it's I think we're gonna be better off for it. I mean, I'm sorry to all the people that lost a job. Layoffs is never cool. Like losing your job is never cool, but there's always like work you can always find somewhere, because like you guys are obviously very talented, and I'm sure that there will be like some other company that,
I mean, are you sure about that? I hope
and
so.
if not,
I totally hope so that these people can bounce back too. Like again, like we keep talking about the doom and gloom of the economy and stuff like that. So yeah, I hope they could start up their new hopefully their new game studio out of nowhere. If they can get a loan from a bank right now, that will be able to start funding that, or all these other companies that are also tightening their wallets, so they might not be able to be jumping on the bandwagon to get a job. Like I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, I can't sit there and have hope on that too. I mean, there is the other side of it on this collapse too, which could be just as detrimental. I get it. Like I'm not going into, we've talked about this a lot. I'm not going into this it's too big to fail bullshit though, but there is the other side of like millions and billions of people thousands of people losing their spots, and for them to try to locate them all, it's not all that easy. It's getting to a point, there's only so many companies left that are willing to be able to take on so much talent at the moment.
Yeah. Well, when you put it that way, yeah. I'm just trying to be optimistic, okay? I mean,
I know. No, I totally understand. It's a sucky situation. It's a very sucky situation that we're heading into at the moment. So, yeah, that's my take on that.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add. I mean, going back to Square-Enix, the restructuring, yeah, it needs to happen. It's just kind of inevitable.
Yeah,
that everybody is just downsizing at this point, and we just gotta hope that whoever was valuable makes it out to the other side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of big AAA company games, Warner Brother Games has been kind of in the news for all the wrong reasons. Suicide Squad not doing great, losing $200 million. I mean, that sucks, right? But for a company that's kind of been taking a whole lot of L's, I'm actually going to give them a W for this one, and not being a bunch of dickheads. Was Warner Brothers deciding not to take away games from Adult Swim. So there was a recent issue that Adult Swim games were eventually all going to get shut down. A lot of the independent games were going to get steamrolled and take away from Warner Brothers Games. They were all going to be pulled out from the Steam account. Apparently, they actually did a reverse on that. Actually, not going to do that, but kind of actually rewarding the games back to the original developers. And a actually surprising gesture from what I've read. So basically, Adult Swim games, the entire catalog of indie games, like, were going to be disposed of, along with their cutting measures right now in order to save money. But again, doing the right thing and kind of rewarding these games back to the developers, man. So your take on that?
I mean I've never played too many games from Adult Swim games. They do have some quality stuff, most specifically what was that one game that, in fact, it was just here, Duck Game. Duck Game is a fun multiplayer shooting game where you literally just one shot kill at your opponents as a duck, and it's really fun multiplayer. There was a bunch of other games that they had. Rain World. That's actually a game that's been all the buzz. Especially, I think there's actually going to be expansion for this game. Actually, I know this is a pretty brutal survival game where you play as a slug cat, and there's a bunch of expansions and stuff like that. So That's pretty cool that this game. I have seen some like footage of this game, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Again, going back to like the whole, just the fact that like, you know, because in situations like this, when you work for a publisher, you know, developers in a weird way do tend to lose their rights to these games. It all goes in the hands of the developers, of the publishers. And the publishers could do whatever they want. Kind of the whole situation right now, you know, with Square-Enix. So just to hear the idea of just like the developers getting their games back from Warner Brothers, which again has been a company that's been taking a whole lot of has been in a whole lot of bad press for all the wrong reasons. It's actually kind of nice for them, for Warner Brothers, for a big AAA company, to give these games back to the developers, man, and for them to do what they see fit.
Yeah, very much so. You don't hear this a lot of like, you know, relinquishment, because a lot of companies, when they have hold of an IP, they squat on that shit for a very long time, and it does frustrate a lot of people. Like biggest example being a little known MMO called City of Heroes. It's a game that was from NCSoft, and it's a game that got shut down by NCSoft after like developers and like the fans said that this game still had plenty of life in it. And it's just like, it was just very frustrating for a lot of people to see that this game was like, you know, like they were holding on to that IP forever instead of like doing something with it. I mean, in fact, it was kind of funny considering that NCSoft also, like several years back, they wanted to make their own competitor to Heroes of the Storm with their own like MOBA game called Master X Master. And then they revealed a character from like City of Heroes was going to be a playable character in that game, and that pissed off so many people when they made that announcement. Like it was like the most tone deaf announcement you could ever make for a game that people have been wanting to see a comeback for years. Yeah. And funny enough, a couple years later, that Master X Master game got shut down because it wasn't as popular. But I do believe that NCSoft has decided to, you know, be a little bit less restrictive on the IP, and I think they're allowing people to actually make their own official like private server. Let me check just to be sure if it is available. Yeah, it's like City of Heroes Homecoming. Yeah, and it is. Yep, yep, there we go. City of Heroes Homecoming. It's 100% legal, like a legal like private server for City of Heroes.
Oh, it's cool.
So see, again, and it's just another thing that you don't hear of like often. It's just publishers and actually like, you know, letting people actually have access to these old like games that are beloved. And it just goes back to that one discussion we had regarding game preservation. This is something that we need to see a lot more of when it comes to the game space.
I do agree. And just the idea that you know, developers and creators are getting back their works and be able to kind of do what they want with them, and hopefully, you know, be able to survive with their works again. And like I said, if you are about the independent movement, like we've been kind of preaching on here, I hope people that do listen do go out and you do buy these games. You know, from the people that were on Adult Swim, and just try out these games a little bit, and you know, support them, support the work that they put in and stuff like that. I think it's very important when they can get the work back, and all the hours and years and months they put into making these games.
Yep, very much so. I mean, I don't really have anything else to say. I'm just glad that there's some W's in the industry, because there's way too many L's.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, anyway, that's all we wanted to talk about today. What did you think about the topics that we discussed? What do you think about Marvel Rivals? What do you think about Square-Enix and their restructuring? that's all we wanted to talk about. This is if you enjoyed this video, please rate, comment, and subscribe. I'm Mikedot with Afromania, and we are saying peace.